All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we got a special training how to fix unprofitable Amazon PPC. And this training is really for you if you check your campaigns whenever instead of having a regular optimization schedule. You start with Amazon's suggested bid instead of calculating the optimal bid, or you don't know how to set your budgets, or you're just not running any video ads whatsoever. I'm super excited to have my good friend Chris Rawlings with us here today. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing? I'm seeing some familiar names in here, like Nick Katz.
Yeah, yeah,
Good
we got
buddy.
some we got some heavy hitters in here, man. I mean, they're here
Yeah.
to learn from you. Quick shout out to everybody joining us live. You can type in your name where you're joining us from. That would be great. I'll just quickly introduce Chris for those of you guys who don't know him. Chris Rawlings, he's an alumni speaker at our Seven Figure Seller Summit. And fun fact, Chris and I actually both lived in Shanghai, China back in the day. I think this was the mid 2010s. So we
Mhm.
actually were connected in Shanghai. I think that's been like a decade. So he's like one of my oldest friends in the e-commerce space. And we've been working together with him ever since the very early days in like 2018 for this first summit. So I'm super excited to bring him back. So Chris, he is a seven-figure seller. He first stepped into e-com after actually a personal spinal injury, really encouraged him to build his own brand of private label spinal health products. And then he also has a super impressive technical background. I mean, this guy's kind of like the mad scientist in the Amazon world, as I like to put it. And he's facilitated over 2,500 product launches, helping more than 500 brands all across different Amazon marketplaces, Amazon US and Japan. And right now, he's the CEO of Sophie Society, PPC management, listing and conversion partner, trusted by many brands all over the world. So, Chris, before we get started, who's this training for today and why is it so important?
Yeah, it's mostly all about it's for sellers who have struggles making their Amazon PPC actually generate profit. Because unlike other advertising platforms, if you run ads on Amazon, you're guaranteed to make sales. Like there's nobody who runs ads and can't make sales. The question is
Yeah,
at what cost? And that's the struggle that most brands that I come across, either that I decided to partner with or that I'm thinking of investing in or partnering with, that they have is how can I make, because Amazon PPC is like required for us all now. We got to run it. It's
right,
kind of like part of the game, but it's really difficult for a lot of brands to do profitably. So
for sure.
this really, like, if you're listening to this and you're having struggles getting your PPC to actually be profitable, to generate profit, not just revenue, then you're in the right place.
Excellent. All right, perfect. I know we got a lot to cover today. So, if you, as we're going through the training, guys, I like this to be interactive. If you do have a question, please type it in the chat or raise your hand. We'll try to get to it at the right moment. If that's okay with you, Chris. Um, yeah, other
Totally.
than that, let's uh let's start the show. Would you like to share your screen?
Nice. Yeah, totally. Let's rock and roll. I'll just ask if you guys can let me know that you can see my screen. I'm going to
Looks
full
good.
screen it here so that you should be seeing my face and fixing unprofitable PPC with Gary and Chris.
Perfect.
Nice. Cool. Okay, I'll rock in here. And I told Gary, like, if you guys have questions and you type him in, he'll be like the voice of the people. He'll interrupt me, when a good question comes up. That would be a good clarifier or qualifier. That's the great thing about doing this live, is that we get to do some interaction. So we'll make the best use of that. So that makes this a lot better than, you know, I mean, for those of you guys not watching live, awesome for you too. But for those of you guys watching live, you get a special place, because if you ask a question and it makes sense and it'll help us understand it better, Gary will let me know in the middle of the presentation. So let's rock on. Um, Before because I jump right in to real case scenarios of how we fixed unprofitable PPC and what we did to fix it. And I even show you the numbers, what the profit was before, what the profit was after, for some of them at least, what the revenue was before, what the revenue was after, and the main things we did to fix it. Um, so I'm getting right into the nitty gritty details. If you guys are like the no BS type people that just want to see the straight up facts and the numbers, like this is it for you. But just to do a quick intro of why you should listen to me in the first place. So with Sophie Society, I partner with brands, and our structure is such that we basically can partner with brands only if we know that we can grow them, because our deal structure is such that most brands pay a very small amount when they first onboard with us, and then we take a percentage of growth as time goes on. So we're kind of like investors in that way, more than we are an agency. And therefore, for us, it's all about what actually works to produce results. There's no like fudging the numbers. You'll hear a lot of stories of like Amazon PPC agencies that will run VCPM campaigns that have like a 2% ACOS because it makes the metrics look good, but really all they're doing is cannibalizing organic sales and stuff like that. None of those tricks work for us because we actually have to grow the brand to get paid. So because of that, we have to actually find out what works. And we have hundreds of partners who have partnered with us. We have the infrastructure to be able to support that level of a portfolio of brands. And that includes every category and most subcategories on Amazon. And as Gary said, I've facilitated over 2,500 product launches. I've been in this space for a very long time. As Gary said, in the mid-teens, we were in Shanghai together doing e-commerce. So everything that I'm sharing today is based on real experience and real data. And I'm actually sharing with you real brands that we've done this with, and not just real brands that we've done this with, but real brands that we've done this with recently. So this is stuff that works right now, not in 2023 or 2022 or, 6 months ago even. So yeah, with that said, so I say that, and then the first example that I have is one from December 2023, but still within 8 months. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk about this brand yet, just to let you know how this is going to work. I'm going to walk you through a couple different brands. I think I have four, maybe five brands. And I'm going to walk through what the initial case scenario was, what the problem was, what we tried to fix it, some things that we tried that didn't work, and then most importantly, what we actually did that worked and what the results were. So most of these either had unprofitable PPC or very little profit in the brand. Some of the brands, like the first one I'm going to share, we're doing negative profit. And I'm going to tell you what we did to turn it around and hopefully distill the principles for you so that you could take those and apply them to your own brands. So, and most of what I'm talking about is centered around PPC, because although that's not all we do at Sophie with our portfolio, we focus on it as like the central hub for how to impact a brand's profitability. Not only like to execute the strategy, but also to get the data from it so that we can use that data to increase the performance of the brand in every other domain that's not advertising. Because Amazon PPC is the best way to execute your strategy. It can let you be more aggressive. It can let you be more conservative, but it's also the best data source for you to come up with strategy. So it's kind of like, it's both your sensor and your actuator. And that's why I'm going to focus on that as like the central pillar here. So let's get into the first one, which is the screenshot that you just saw. So this brand is a kitchenware brand. These guys came on with us in the beginning of last year. They were losing around 15,000 a month net on the brand. So that was like their net loss, meaning their expenses were 15,000 more than their revenue every month. So when you have a brand like that that's costing you 15,000 every month to run, that's a expensive hobby, not a brand, right? So that is not good. You can't keep that up for long. And so what happened with this brand is they partnered with us, and they were at the point where they were almost gonna throw in the towel with the brand. They were pretty much at the wit's end, but the brand owner was smart. The products were good, and they had fairly decent ratings. Not stellar, but pretty good. Some of their products had like good ratings. So it was like it was definitely a case where making edits to the PPC and edits to the listing and thumbnails could have a significant impact. And it did. So what this graph is this is a graph. We use Sellerboard a lot in our company. So this is just a graph that shows the blue bars are profit there. So it shows the negative profit getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it finally goes positive. And the way we were able to do that is, well, first let me talk through what the issues were. So there was a lot of just messy like campaign disorganization in the brand. The match types were mixed up and in different campaigns. The bidding strategy was not right. There's 3 different bidding strategies on Amazon. You guys might know. There's down only bids, fixed bids, and up and down bids. And those 3 bidding strategies are all good for different applications. It doesn't make sense to apply one to all. Down only is probably the most common, but there's a place for fixed bids and there's a place for up and down as well. And if you don't have the right bidding strategy for the right goal of your campaign, you can mess up the economics. Match types as well. When you mix up broad match, phrase match, and exact match in the same campaign, it makes it very difficult for you to keep organized which of your campaigns are sourcing new keyword data and target data, and which of your campaigns are there just for the sake of performance, and which of your campaigns are there to help drive ranking. So it makes it really difficult for you to get data. In addition to that, the campaign optimizations were just not being done frequently enough. So this was kind of a case where there were campaign optimizations being done whenever instead of when on a regular schedule when they should be. So what we did to fix it, I'm just going to walk through each of these step by step with a little visual. One of the most important things, this is like a common theme between that we apply to almost every brand, if it's possible, and most of the time it is when you're organizing the keyword targets in your campaigns, especially the sponsored product campaigns, there's 2 main ways to organize it. You can either group your keywords in a campaign by how much search volume they have. So you have the high search volume keywords in one campaign, the medium search volume keywords in another campaign, and then a few different campaigns with lower volume search keywords. And then you can isolate keywords into their own campaign when they're really, really important. But another way to organize your campaigns is by shopper intent. And what that means is, what is the reason behind this search? And are there other keywords that have a similar reason? So here you could see I'm putting in keywords at home bar kit, home mixology kit, and I can't remember the last one I did. Yeah, drinks kit home, drink kits home. So all of that has to do with at home. But there might be somebody else that is a whole other group of searches that's all about corporate events, or there might be a whole other search group that's about learning, or classes like bartending classes. These are different purposes of keywords, and segregating them based on the purpose of the shopper intent does a lot of magical things for you. If you have different campaigns based on the major shopper intents, I'll give a couple other examples as well. So material could be one. Sometimes there's a whole group of shoppers, a whole bunch of different keywords that are all about a material like wooden. So if the product is made out of wood, and that's really important to a certain subsect of your buyers, then segregating those keywords that are all about wooden or all about maple or pine or whatever type of wood it is, or softwood or hardwood or whatever, that can allow you to see how much that shopper group is resonating with your product, with your ads, and with your listing. And you see that in the data based on how your click-through rate is for that campaign and how your conversion rate is for that campaign. So boom, if you segregate it this way, now you have your campaigns are now these ultra valuable, super specific data points that help you to increase your click-through rate and your conversion rate for particular buyer intents. And this is where you can get unprofitable products and unprofitable PPC to start turning profitable, because you finally can find out what the issue is. If you find out that people who search keywords with the word wood in it, they have a high conversion rate, but for some reason the click-through rate is below average, like far below average, then you know people who want to, who really care about the wooden material of the product, this is the right product for them, but it's not being expressed in the thumbnail. So I should put that word closer to the beginning of the title, and I should maybe try split testing my primary image to see if I can zoom in on that or show wood chippings or something to prove that this is what they're looking for. And you can do that with each buyer intent. And usually when you split up keywords this way, I think I share later in this presentation how we do it in our keyword master sheet. But when you do it this way, you usually end up with anywhere between 6 and 15 different buyer intent groups. Now, you don't have to put all of your keywords into one of these buckets, but when you see the patterns, you should have campaigns specifically for those groups. And then other keywords, you can either use them as exact match single keyword campaigns, or you can group those together a different way if they don't fit in any of those buckets. That's totally fine. But if you do have these separate buyer groups, which most products do, I'd say probably 4 out of 5 products have the ability to segregate their keywords by different buyer groups. Doing this allows you to get an edge that I guarantee you 99 out of 100 of your competitors are not doing this at a deep level. And this is like the depth to which you need to go sometimes in order to achieve these types of results that I'm sharing with you guys today. So
excellent. Chris, can I take a moment just to quickly ask? One thing that you mentioned, I think it resonates a lot, is the buyer intent. It's like the customer avatar. And I feel especially right now with Amazon going, from A9 search to Rufus and Cosmo, right? It seems like Amazon's putting more emphasis in like, who's the shopper, who's this, bar kit for? Is it like, home mixologist, or are they doing like corporate party? How beneficial is this? Because like you're saying to segregate this into different buyer intent groups. Is this beneficial for like sellers as they're optimizing for Cosmo Rufus AI search as well?
Absolutely. It 100% is. And the reason is because once you have this data from organizing your campaigns this way, and then you make the changes, then with you having an above average click-through rate for these particular buyer intents and an above average conversion rate for them, that is the data that's being fed into Rufus, because they want to know for somebody with a particular problem, with a particular search, be it voice or text, or them recommending a product, what is the product that's most likely to interest them? And the only metrics that they have to go off of are the click-through rate and the conversion rate. That like they're seeing, okay, out of all the impressions that this thumbnail got, how many people clicked versus the competitors, what percentage of them clicked, and out of all the visits that the listing got, how many of them bought versus all the competitors, how many of them bought. So this is the data that's being fed into Rufus to be able to make those smart searches. So excellent. Fixing this is like the ultimate, recommendation algorithm and AI search algorithm optimization that you can do.
Excellent. Okay. But the second question I had is just like how frequent we should be optimizing our PPC campaign. So I see on your slide, made daily, then twice weekly optimizations. Is that your recommended schedule?
Yeah, like twice weekly is kind of the standard for us. If the product is in launch and we have campaigns that are really important for ranking, we're managing those daily, sometimes multiple times daily, like 2 or 3 times daily, but that's only for the first couple of weeks of the launch. After you reach a steady state with the product and it's been on the platform for more than a month, you're normally optimizing the campaigns twice a week. And that's a good clip where you typically have enough data to make good decisions. Because if you're doing optimizations too frequently, it actually can harm you because you're not waiting for enough data to come in to make a change. So you end up being kind of like schizophrenic with the campaigns, and you're upping bids and decreasing bids and changing budgets so frequently that you're not you're not even making good decisions because there's not statistically significant data there for you to have determined that you needed to increase a bid or decrease a bid. So twice weekly is generally a good clip. The only difference I would say is if the product is very niche and the sales volume is low for that reason, even when you rank, then sometimes you actually have to wait a little longer, because twice a week might be too often even for you to get enough data to make good decisions on bid changes, budget adjustments, bid adjusters, and all of that.
Okay, excellent. Great stuff. Let's keep going.
Nice. Yeah, so here's a little GIF that shows how we organize keywords. You can see we've got different sources here: Helium 10, Search Term Report, Product Opportunity Explorer. We copy all the keywords and the search volume for all those keywords, and then we separate them into groups. So here we have groups basket, bag, and tray. This particular product that I'm talking about here, this is one of our partner brands that sells walker baskets and walker trays. They attach to walkers for elderly people. You can see another group that we have here is accessory and gift. So all of these are different buyer intents. Somebody searching for walker tray is looking for something different than somebody searching walker basket. And somebody searching walker basket is searching something is different than somebody searching walker accessories, which is a very broad term. So we segregated all the primary keywords that had a significant amount of search volume into these different categories: tray, basket, gift, accessories, and we had a few more that are not shown here, and group these keywords into their own campaigns. Now we know, based on the click-through rate and conversion rate of those campaigns, what is resonating about our primary image with people for each of these things, and what is resonating based on our title, and also based on because of the conversion rate, what is resonating on our listing. So now we can make like really educated decisions about what to split test in our primary image, what to split test in our title, and what to split test in our listing to get higher click-through rates and higher conversion rates. And this is like really the piece that makes the crystal glow to get profitability on Amazon. Because if you have these insights, you can make changes that you have a high degree of confidence will actually move the needle with your profitability, because the data is right there showing you your average click-through rate is 0.4%, but your average click-through rate for tray keywords is 0.1%. It's a fraction of your average click-through rate. What's going on there? We're probably not communicating to that buyer intent well enough to show them that this is essentially the same as a tray, or this works like a tray, or this is a tray. So this doing this can give you a huge competitive advantage. All right, moving on. So I'll come back to that when we get to some of these other examples. And I know I got to make sure that we move along here to stay in time. But
we have a couple of questions too. Like, do you want to take them later, or do you want to?
No, we might as well take them now while we're on the topic.
Okay. So Noreen has a question. What is your recommended daily budget? If new and a small PPC budget, wouldn't you need longer duration between optimizing?
Yes, she's right. If you have a smaller budget and you're getting less sales daily, you do need to have a longer duration between optimizations, because you're not getting enough data in to do optimizations that quickly. And in terms of setting your budget, this is a moving target, because you're going to see, based on what your average ACOS is, what your net loss is, or what your net gain is, or if you're breaking even at what ACOS. And to set your daily budget, you're basically going to, if you're already selling and you're not, this isn't a new launch, then all you have to do is look at your last month, look at your tacos, and then look at your target tacos for this month, what you want to spend as a percentage of your total revenue. And now you have your budget for the whole month. And that you can then spread across your different campaigns, so that you know you're going to spend about the amount that you're targeting as a percentage of your revenue. So tacos being total average cost of sale was my ad spend divided by my total sales. And that's kind of like your baseline. Then if you want to be more aggressive and you want to spend on ranking campaigns, so you know you're going to make more of a loss this month to hopefully make more of a gain the next month, because you're going to get more organic ranking, then you're going to spend more than that, more than what your target tacos would be. So if my tacos is 10%, that I'm spending 10% of my gross sales on ads, and I'm making 100,000 in total gross sales, then my ad budget is going to be 10,000 because that's my target tacos. That's probably pretty low if you're trying to aggressively grow. But it depends on the space, obviously. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And Avi had a question. Do you keep unlimited budget when you are launching, or do you keep a fixed budget? If so, what do you do when your budget runs out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so you can do an unlimited budget. Like sometimes we set the budget sky high and we just use the bid to regulate how much is spent on the campaign. So, the person who asked that question has obviously probably tried this strategy before. Sometimes it can tell Amazon that you're like ready to spend. But most of the time, we will set a budget just to make sure that nothing happens to cause us to overspend, especially if we're trying to figure out where the bid is. Because sometimes in the beginning, you don't know where the proper bid is. So you have to use up and down bidding strategies, or you have to set the bid higher than you normally would for your target CPC. Yeah. And when it comes to setting the bid, what was the question? How to set the bid or how to set the budget?
If so, how do you like, do you keep unlimited budget when you are launching, or do you keep a fixed budget? If so, what do you do when your budget runs out?
Oh, what do you do when your budget runs out? Yeah. So when your budget runs out, then you know that your bid was too high for you. So you might be going after targets that are too high volume. So if your budget runs out one day, you got to make sure that it doesn't run out the next day. It's bad for the budgets to run out because that means that you basically spent your budget in the lowest converting times of the day, because between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m., conversions on Amazon are at their all-time lowest throughout a 24-hour period. So, and they're highest like in the middle of the day and right after work ends. So if you run out of budget anywhere in the day, basically, it's a bad thing because it means that you probably missed out on when the clicks are cheapest and the conversions are highest. So you have to either up your budget or you have to decrease your bid or target different targets that are not so competitive. You can just go one level deeper and be like, okay, that keyword is too high volume for me right now. I just can't afford to try to rank on it or get top of search. I'll try getting rest of search or product pages for that keyword. Or I'll just try a different keyword or a group of different keywords that's not so competitive.
Okay, excellent. Let's keep going.
Nice. Yeah. The next thing we did, this one's straightforward, so I won't say on this one, but we segregated the match types into their own campaigns. So this is really just good campaign etiquette because it allows you to get better data. So when you're creating a campaign, you see these three checkboxes: broad, phrase, exact. The right way to do this is just to each campaign should only have one of these checkboxes checked. If you want to do a broad phrase and an exact campaign, just do it with 3 different campaigns, even if you want the same seed keyword in that campaign. And by the way, we've had mastermind. We have in our own internal masterminds where we go over the performance of our accounts and we share new strategies and we share what's working. It's really popular these days for people to ignore broad and phrase and only do exact campaigns and utilize their own keyword research because they don't want Amazon to spend their budget on unnecessary keywords. However, we found that for whatever reason, I can't tell you exactly why, but phrase and broad, and particularly broad, can perform better even with the exact same keyword on the exact same search term. Like you can look at a search term that you have an exact match campaign for, and that same search term that's showing up in one of your broad campaigns, and the click-through rate can be, or the cost per click can be totally different. And sometimes it performs better in broad. And there's no way to really know why this is. But for whatever reason, that can happen. So I wouldn't ignore broad and phrase. That's not what I'm trying to say in this case. All I'm trying to say is segregate them into their own campaigns. Broad and phrase can be really good tools. And for some reason, sometimes they can perform super well, even better than exact. Then using the appropriate bid strategy for each campaign. So most of you guys know this. Down in the campaign bidding strategy, you see 3 strategies and you see 3 placements. So the three strategies are dynamic bids down only, dynamic bids up and down, and fixed bids. So dynamic bids down only means Amazon will only decrease the bid. It will never increase it. So whatever bid you set, that's the max bid that you're willing to bid for that particular campaign. Up and down means Amazon can increase your bid by up to 100%, or it can decrease the bid. And then fixed bids means Amazon is always going to bid that same amount that you put in. Now, bidding is not the same as cost per click. Even if you use fixed bids, it doesn't mean you're going to get that cost per click as that's how much you're going to pay for each click. All that means is that that's what determines whether or not you are getting that placement. And getting the placement is a lot more of a complicated thing than actually just choosing a bid. Sometimes you have a product that's early stage, unproven, and you could bid 5 times what the average CPC is, and Amazon still won't show the ad sometimes. So it's not all about this, but setting the right bidding strategy for the right goal is important. So the general rule of thumb is dynamic bids down only is kind of like the standard. Like you'll use that on most of your campaigns. Fixed bids, a lot of times you'll use that when you're doing a ranking campaign and you really want to push it to the top of search. Up and down is a type of bidding strategy you'll use if you're having trouble getting placements and you want Amazon to find the right bid. And then you use that data to then create a different campaign that's a down only bid. And you can finally get that data. But if you're not getting any impressions, you have no clue what to bid. So sometimes you have to hit up and down just to see what kind of CPC range you should be getting. And then down here in the budget placements, normally you're not going to mess with those at all in the beginning. It used to be that you could just put top of search at 900% and Amazon would show you, top of search like automatically. But now it's not really like that. It's best to keep them at 0 in the beginning. And then you can up them by like 20 to 30% at a time. It's best not to just zoom it up to 900% or something. 900% is the max that you can do on these. Best not to do that. And then finally, making daily adjustments for products in launch and then twice weekly optimizations to campaigns. So the main things that you're doing is adjusting bids based on the CPC that you're getting and any ranking results that you're getting, and adjusting placement modifiers. So always looking in this placements tab on the left side here in your ad console. Once you click on a campaign, you'll see this placements tab. Then you see top of search, rest of search, and product pages. It used to be that you could only adjust the top of search one, but now on last half a year or so, we can adjust rest of search and product pages. You'll be able to see how these placements are performing. And most of you guys probably know this, but some people don't realize, even if I'm exact match targeting a keyword, Amazon is still going to show my ad on product pages. It's not just because I'm targeting a keyword doesn't mean Amazon will show my ad for that keyword or show my ad in search at all for that reason, for that matter. Every type of sponsored product ad, whether you're targeting a keyword or targeting a product, can show up on product pages and in search. And that's in search, it can show up at the top of search or rest of search. So you might have a keyword that looks like it's performing badly. And then you click into the placement data and you see, oh, actually, no, rest of search and product pages for this keyword is performing great. It's just top of search that's performing badly. So what you do in that case is just decrease the bid overall and then increase the bid modifier for rest of search and product pages. So now you're getting more placements, more views and more clicks and more purchases for the placements that convert really well. And since you decrease the bid, you'll get less placements, less clicks, and less impressions for the placement, in this case, top of search, that's doing badly. So those are the main things. You're also going to be split testing creative, checking on the performance of creative, negating keywords that are completely irrelevant that are showing up in auto campaigns and broad campaigns, isolating keywords into their own campaign that you see that are performing really well. These are all the main optimizations that you're going to be doing on an ongoing basis. Yeah, and so that's what we did. Everything I just said is basically, there's always a lot more to the story, right? But in this case, this is primarily what we did to completely turn around this account that was losing somewhere around $15,000 a month and make them profitable. And just to prove that it wasn't luck, we did the exact same thing in the European account. So this is a screenshot of the same brand in the European market. We did the same thing with them. We there all the same steps that just went through, and we took them from negative 2,000 a month in profit to 8,000 a month in profit. Okay, here's another brand. So this is a brand that sells kids. It's kind of like kids furniture. Um, we took them from doing like the low to mid single digit thousands in profit, which for the scale, their scale, that's and the product in the space, that's very low. So they weren't unprofitable. They weren't even break even. They just weren't making much. And we were able to take the account to 20,000 a month in profit. You only see this graph go down again because after April of this year, they went out of stock like heavily on their items, but they rebounded right after this. So they had a high tacos, lower than benchmark click through rate on main image, as proven by brand analytics and product opportunity explorer, and they had no sponsor brand campaigns. So their issues were their listing thumbnail had lower than average click through rate, which if you have a listing thumbnail with a lower than average click through rate, you have a problem because even though, so people ask this question all the time. Amazon is pay per click. So why does my click through rate matter, right? I'm only paying for the ones that do click. So who cares what my click through rate is? Well, the reason it matters is because if your click through rate is lower than the average for the page one, not only are you getting less clicks for all your organic rankings than all the other competitors on page one, but you're also feeding negative data into the algorithm that will eventually cause you to drop in rankings because Amazon is learning that people tend to click competitors' listings more than yours. And they want to show whatever listings get the most clicks for every certain amount of impressions because Amazon only has a certain number of impressions. They only have a certain number of hours that shoppers are spending on their app or on their website every day. And they need them to click the most products possible and buy the most products possible because that's how they make money. So if your product is not getting as many clicks as your competitor's product, they're going to show you less. What that means materially is you're going to bump down in the rankings. So if your listing has a lower than average click-through rate, that's the problem that you need to drop everything and solve. And you can find this out because you actually get this data, not only your click-through rate, but the click-through rate of the space through Product Opportunity Explorer and inside Brand Analytics. So you cannot, it used to be that the only click-through rate you could see was your PPC click-through rate, the click-through rate of your ads. You can still see that inside your ad console. But now you also get your organic click-through rate because Amazon inside Brand Analytics shows you how many impressions you got and how many clicks you got. You just divide the two numbers and now you have your click-through rate. And it also shows you that for the whole space for a given search term, that is, for a given search term, how many total impressions there were, how many total purchases there were. Now you know the average click-through rate for that space, for that search term. So all you got to do is use Brand Analytics and Product Opportunity Explorer, calculate your click-through rate, then see what the average click-through rate is for the space. If your click-through rate is lower, fix it. If your click-through rate is higher, great, go hard on PPC. If your click-through rate is average, you can still go hard on PPC while split testing new primary images and different titles. So that was an issue with this brand. They were also not gaining organic ranking from PPC traffic, which made tacos higher. The campaigns were not placement optimized, is what we talked about during the last one. So I won't go over that again, but top of search, rest of search, product pages. And the search terms were jumbled in campaigns. There are also no well-managed sponsored brand campaigns, and this is going to be a recurring theme as well. When you have problems with profitability, dude, sponsored brand campaigns can be a complete lifesaver. I was in one of my internal masterminds with my brand managers last Thursday. And I asked the guys, I said, put your hand up if you've saved your accounts with great performing sponsored brand campaigns. And more than half of my guys that manage our hundreds of brands in our portfolio put their hands up because this is one of our favorite ways to save a product or save an account that's having really difficult times competing on high cost per click ads. I feel like right now it feels like having a superpower or something. It feels like knowing a secret that nobody else knows. And I have a feeling that a year from now, 18 months from now, maybe even sooner, I don't know, that it's not going to be like that. And I'm sure by then I'll have another superpower. So I'm not worried, but I'm sure, I'm sure that the market will catch up, because right now this feels like something that we can just pull out of our pocket like whenever we want. That if the product is having issues, 4 out of 5 times, as long as it's a product that can be visually communicated, even if it's not, sometimes you can do UGC, user generated content videos, even if it's not a visual product. But as long as the product can be visually communicated what the benefits are, I would say a majority of the time, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 times, you can get cheaper cost per clicks with a sponsor brand video ad or a sponsor brand headline video ad, which is a fairly new thing that only came out about 8 months ago. So standard sponsor brand video ads that show in the middle of search. So I'm going to show you guys the example that we did for this brand in a second. And headline video ads can be your secret weapon to making unprofitable PPC profitable, because you can many times get way cheaper CPCs with them. So,
That's
all right, what
huge.
did we do to
Chris,
fix it?
let me just
Go
take
ahead,
a
Gary.
quick moment.
Yeah.
First off, I think that's huge. And for everybody joining us live in the chat, if you are using sponsor brand ads, like what Chris is saying, can you put one? But if you're not, if you're overlooking this, can you put two? I just want to see where everybody is in the room right now. Chris, meanwhile, quick time check. We have about 15 minutes left just so we stay on schedule. All right.
Great. Awesome.
And we
Thanks,
had
Gary.
one previous question about placement. Do we have time for that, or save that till the end?
Let's save that one to the end so that we can
Okay.
get through the most important stuff with the time we have left.
Okay. And so in the quick informal survey, Avi says one. Yes, they're using sponsored brand video, and J Parks is one. Okay. So we got 2 people out of the roughly 16 in the room right now live. They're there.
Okay, so that's quite a minority, small minority.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this will be really good for you guys. Not only the ones that aren't running it, but the ones that are running it, and you might not be taking it so seriously. We have an account. I was just discussing this with one of our guys early this morning, that they have a sponsored brand video headline campaign, meaning the video is playing at the top of search, that makes more total sales than all of the sponsored product campaigns combined, which is shocking because most brands spend way more on sponsored product campaigns than any other type of campaign, sponsored brand, sponsored display, or DSP. But this one has one single campaign that actually sells more than all of their SP campaigns combined. So that's how powerful this is. And the market has not caught on yet, guys. That's the thing. That's why it really feels like a secret weapon, or some kind of secret that only we know, because we know we can always pull it out. And for the most part, we're going to be able to get cheaper CPCs. So what do we do? I'm going to start speed running through this so that I can, luckily I covered a lot of this already. And that's why this presentation is going to start speeding up now, because you're going to see recurring themes here. So we split tested new thumbnail image concepts to achieve a higher than page one average click-through rate. We created dedicated, tightly managed campaigns for best performing mid-tail keywords. So this is because they were not using PPC to rank. So we determined what were the highest relevance keywords, and we used exact match campaigns to start ranking for the ones that had the best conversion rate. We optimized placements twice a week. We talked about that before. We segregated search terms by shopper intent, is what we talked about before. And we spun up sponsored brand video campaigns with proven creative. And I say proven creative only because the creative was already working as a product video. We just cut it up in a new way to make it as a sponsored brand video ad. So this is something like what the thumbnail looked like before. This isn't the actual product before, but this is what it looked like after. So before, it was the product by itself, white background, as per Amazon's guidelines. And the one that we changed it to was the product being used by the accessories that it's used for, because it's meant to hold books, with the avatar using the product. Now, this is not in line with Amazon's guidance for how to create a primary image, because Amazon's guidance is put the product by itself with nothing else on a white background. However, Amazon themselves, for their own brands like Amazon Basics, for example, doesn't even adhere to this strictly. So it's clear that there's a big gray area here. The main thing that you want to avoid is putting like badges or stickers or text on the image or anything like that. As long as you don't do that and you're not trying to mislead the customer that it comes with this thing or that thing or whatever, then it's usually fine. I've very rarely seen sellers get docked for trying to more clearly communicate what the product is for. As long as you're not trying to like cheat, quote unquote, the algorithm or mislead customers, you're usually good. So this had a dramatic effect on the click-through rate. You can say the click-through rate here went from about 1% up to 3.5%. So that's a dramatic increase. It about tripled. And the only reason it went down here again is because this is when it was stocking out. The click-through rate improved dramatically. This allowed the organic rank to stick, and it also allowed us to get more traffic from the same amount of free impressions we were getting from our existing organic ranking. Plus, it allowed us to keep the organic ranking that we had. So everything gets better. All the economics get better just from this simple improvement in a metric that most people ignore, which is click-through rate. So you can see the data very clearly. And all you have to do is come up with a couple ideas and split test them. Amazon has its own split testing tool called Amazon Experiments that you can use to do this. So then creating tightly managed campaigns for best performing mid-tail keywords. This is really just simply creating exact match campaigns for the keywords that you see have the highest conversion rate. Conversion rate is what you really want to follow. You can always fix click-through rate afterwards. You really want to follow whatever keywords have the best conversion rate. Pick those out of your search term report. Make dedicated campaigns for those. Even if their volume is not super high, but it's just medium, use those as your kind of doorway into ranking, because you're going to get the cheapest ACOS sales from those because you have the highest conversion. And the ranking that you impact that you get from those is actually going to affect all the other keywords that you're not targeting anyway. And then I already talked about optimizing placements and shopper intent. So we'll skip right to sponsored brand video campaign. So here's the creative. You guys can take a look at that. It's basically just the product in use. There's not even any text on there at all. Some music in the background. And this is a standard sponsored brand video campaign that shows in the middle of search here. So this is not a top of search video campaign that has to be done in a product collection where there's multiple products. This is your standard rest of search video campaign. And this campaign did great. Fraction of the CPCs, great ACOS, consistently performs, does super well. Totally changed the economics of this brand. And I showed you guys the screenshot before. Cool. All right. So I know we're short on time here. I'm going to slam through these next two. And then we'll get into any questions that are at the end. And then we can wrap this up, guys. So this is a consumables brand. So this brand, this is a screenshot of Sellerboard, which is a great software. I'm not affiliated with them, although I should be because I use them heavily. A software for tracking profit. So these blue bars are the profit. So you can see the profit was sometimes negative, sometimes positive, sometimes zero. It was basically like around break even. We partnered with them, and you could see month by month, we started decreasing their ad spend, and their sales actually decreased. But look what happened to their profit. I mean, it rose dramatically month on month. So the changes that we made here made a dramatic impact on the economics of this overall business. I mean, give me less revenue and 4x the profit any day of the week. I'd be happy to make that trade, like all day long. Like, let's go. What we had to do was cut down a lot of this ad spend because a lot of it was being wasted. So this is a niche with really high CPCs. Most supplements brands are going to be like that. It's going to be high CPC niche. It had a higher ACOS and a higher tacos, and there were big names on page one that most people in this space would recognize by walking into like a GMC or like a health food store. So it's difficult to compete. And their profit was average break even with very low volume of growth. So they're kind of stuck. So what was the issue? Basically, their ad spend was not balanced properly throughout the different ad types and match types. They were going all in on all these sponsored display campaigns. They didn't have the right they weren't trying sponsored brand campaigns enough. It just was not balanced. Their auto targeting was being used for performance rather than discovery. So they just had like a bunch of budget on auto campaigns and were heavily negating them and trying to make them perform really well. That's not the right way to view auto targeting campaigns. Auto targeting should really be just grounds for research, where it's a place for you to find out what targets, keyword targets, and product targets work well, not a place for you to try to make profit. Auto targeting campaigns are like your laboratory. And then finally, their campaign optimizations were just not being done predictably and regularly. You're seeing that this is a theme throughout a lot of the campaigns that we turned around here, or accounts that we turned around here. So what did we do to fix it? We balanced out the different ad spend through the different ad types. We segregated the ad types and cleaned up the mixed up campaigns, organized the campaigns by shopper intent. You guys know my beating of my drum on that. We tightly restricted these auto campaigns and stopped using them for performance, lowered their budgets. And then we implemented twice weekly bid and placement optimizations. This is the main elements that we did to fix this. And that allowed us to completely, even though we lost some sales because we decreased a lot of the ad spend to clean this up, we've since, started ramping up the things that are working really well. First, we just wanted to get it profitable, and that's what this presentation is all about, how to make profit. So that was the result. So another thing about any kind of consumables campaign is that you have to take into account that consumables brands are a long game. So we made this brand profitable because it had a lot of PPC issues, but it's not going to profit crazy amounts until it's been on the market long enough for the LTV and repeat purchase rate to kick in. It takes a little while. We managed a brand that was doing 1.2 million a month on Amazon, but it had been on the market since 2018, and it was selling a supplement that was really niche back then, and it's coming into the pop culture sphere now. So they had a 48% repeat purchase rate, meaning 48% of their total units sold any given month were coming from repeat purchasers who had purchased from them before. That kind of brand can spend way more on ads on their first sale than a brand who's just starting out, who has no repeat purchasers because the shoppers simply haven't had time for them to run out and have to go buy more. So consumables brands get more and more economical the older they get. And you have to be willing to kind of spend upfront for these high CPCs to get customers. And if you don't have the budget for that, you have to get really scrappy and basically look for cheap clicks anywhere you can get them. And sometimes you have to do that. So this is the brand I was talking about that does 1.2 million a month. We took on this brand when they were doing about 600K, grew them to 1.2 million. This is a niche supplements brand that became not so niche. Okay, this is a language learning product. So this language learning product, I actually did an interview with this founder. She's a super awesome person, very inspiring person, a nurse based in Toronto, really charming personality. She designed this product. It's a language learning product. And she was doing okay. She was doing 10K a month. She wasn't losing money on it, but it just wasn't growing, and the pricing wasn't right, and she was kind of stuck at a ceiling. So since the product is great, founder was great, they just hit a plateau, and she just didn't have like the advertising know-how to manage her Amazon PPC properly and go deep enough in the keyword research and identify buyer groups and all that stuff that we've been talking about this entire presentation. So product wasn't properly priced. She wasn't doubling down on the winning keywords. There was no kind of new keyword discovery. Discovery campaigns were being used for performance. And there was just no deep keyword research being done prior to the campaign creation. So it was kind of very general. So what we do is we split tested pricing to optimize for profit, not sales, without hurting CTR or CVR. This is key. Like when you're price testing, if it affects your you have to be measuring the CTR over time. That's key. In our KPI tracker sheet, we see CTR week on week and month on month, and we see how it changes over time. And we see the same with CVR. And that tells us when we make changes if it actually mattered. So When you're split testing price, you have to make sure you do it without hurting your CTR or CVR too much, and do it to optimize profit, not to optimize sales. So if you increase your price and it hurts your sales a little bit, but your profit is like 4 times more, it's a great decision, right? As long as it doesn't hurt your click-through rate too much. And we created tightly controlled ranking campaigns with keywords that perform best from a conversion rate perspective, like we said before. And we improved conversion rate for search term families with a high click-through rate. So any kind of search term family that had a high click-through rate, we wanted to see how could we get that a higher conversion rate. And finally, we segregated discovery versus performance campaigns, making performance campaigns isolated on their own, either single keyword campaigns or even broad campaigns. And the discovery campaigns, we tightly restricted the budget and made sure that we were only pulling keywords, using that campaign to pull keywords from it. And then finally, we executed regular deep keyword research and PPC data analysis that wasn't being done before. You guys can look this up on YouTube if you want to see my interview with Nafisa. She's a great storyteller. All right, guys, this is the last one, and then we'll wrap this up. So I'm going to do this one really fast. This is a hair care product. We basically 9x their sales in the period of less than a year. Their ACOS went from 100% down to 42%. And their sales went from around 9,000 a month to 195,000 a month. This was a crazy ride with these guys. So this is a hair care brand. They basically had no active PPC management. So it was just waiting for someone to do things properly on it. And the product is great. The market is great. It's a consumable product. It's a really great brand, great space. They had a healthy conversion rate already, and they had a good repeat purchase rate. They just didn't have PPC management being actively done. It was like being completely neglected. So this is an ideal brand for conviction. I know most of the guys probably listening to this and gals listening to this aren't in a situation like this. But this does show you like how powerful PPC management that's proper can be. This is like a hockey stick graph that you see right here. So what happened? Why was our PPC negative? There were no regular optimizations being done on the PPC. They had no video campaigns. Their high, mid, and low volume keywords and different shopper intents were all mixed and cannibalizing one another. There was no retargeting, even though it was consumable. And it was a very low spend, like almost minimal, negligible spend. So what we did to fix it was implement regular optimizations, as we talked about before. We started split testing different video campaigns, and we found one big winner that we've been riding ever since. And we segregated keyword types and created dedicated campaigns for the best ones. That we implemented aggressive retargeting, which some of it worked, but after split tests and different look back periods, we found the ones that worked really best and just focused in on those. And then we balance out the spend for profit, not for vanity metrics or for revenue. Now, you guys, I'm sure by now are seeing a lot of themes here. Cool. All right. So let's open it up for questions. Yeah, I put my contact information here, hello@sophiesociety.com. If you want the slides or you have any questions that were unanswered, this gets to me and my team.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And tell us about the Profitable PPC challenge that you guys have coming up September 23rd to 27th for people that want to get like more coaching and more mentoring with their PPC.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the URL that I have up here. And I think Gary's going to drop a link to it too. It's ppcchallenge.sophiesociety.com. And you basically what this is, we do this only twice a year. It's for 5 days. It's totally live. It's not pre-recorded. It's not a webinar. It's not a training. It's like an in-depth virtual workshop live with me and my team, the very same guys that are managing all of those accounts that I just mentioned, where you bring your particular PPC problems and we get you to solve them. You get to like hear a lot of examples similar to the ones that you're hearing, just now today, and principles for what we do to get the results that we get. And we actually dive into your accounts. We have like interactive sessions where you bring your challenges. And we have like a 24/7 throughout the whole 5 days group chat with all of my brand managers and me, and other high-level brand owners, where people are sharing their challenges, getting their questions answered. People are even dropping in like search term reports and recording looms for each other. It's like really deep communal, small group setting, PPC workshopping. So we segregate it into just a few groups of 60. Every time we've done this before, this is our fifth time doing this, we've completely sold out because we cap it so that we have a high mentor to participant ratio. We don't like bring an infinite number of people in. We only have a few groups of 60. Each group has 60 brands in it, and each group has around 15 mentors in it. So it's a really high ratio of mentors to participants. And yeah, so I think right now we have somewhere around 250 registered. It's capped at 360. Starts September 23rd. And we definitely will sell out. So if you're watching this and it still is available, I would recommend that if you're serious about improving your Amazon PPC, it is a commitment. You got to show up every day at noon Eastern every day. If you can't, we can send you a 24-hour replay link, but we do expect every single person to engage. And if you don't, we just kindly ask you to leave and refund you because we really want everyone engaged to help each other and really commit to the process. So if that sounds good and you're interested in transforming your ability to improve your brand using Amazon PPC, I would love to have you. Just go to this link or drop the link that Gary drops in, and you can learn all of our frameworks and install them all on your brands yourselves and start having Amazon PPC actually profit for you.
Excellent. Just to be totally transparent, I am an affiliate of the PPC challenge. So if you do join, I do get a commission for that. And I feel that Chris, he definitely knows his stuff just with everything that he's shared with you guys today for free. So it is a paid training or a paid mastermind. So I feel like if you got value out of this, you want to, take a bigger investment. Obviously, there's like a time investment as well, right? I think that would be great. September 23rd to 27th. All right. Let's quickly get back to a couple other questions that were asked earlier. And I saw Daniel asked a question earlier about bidding strategy. If you set your bidding strategy to dynamic bids down only, but set your adjust bids by placement, will Amazon still bid up?
Yes. Yeah. Amazon will still increase whatever the bid that you put in as the max bid for dynamic bids down only by the percentage that you inputted in your bid placement modifier. So if I say a 40% bid modifier and I set my bid at $1 and set it at down only, Amazon will still increase my bid to $1.40 just for top-up search placements.
Awesome. Okay. And Noreen asked a question: do you only use exact? I think this was asked earlier in the middle of your presentation.
No, we'll use all three bidding types. Down only is actually we use most frequently. Exact. Oh, sorry, exact match. Sorry, I was thinking she was saying fixed bids. Yeah, exact. No, yeah. So we'll use all three: broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And in fact, I mentioned this during the presentation. Sometimes you'll get broad match campaigns that work better than exact match campaigns for the very same keyword, which is very curious and peculiar. And we've got our own theories on why this might be, don't know with 100% certainty, but it is really interesting. So it's definitely worth testing all of them for sure.
Excellent. Okay. If you guys have any other questions before we leave, feel free to drop in the chat right now. Chris, I had a question. It seems that sponsor brand ads, like the video ads, are working very well, like a secret weapon. What advice would you have for people that want to do this themselves? Like I believe Amazon like ads, they have some internal tools to create videos. Like what would you recommend, to use those or to use some external tools or even to use AI, or what do you suggest?
Yeah, Amazon's tools to create the videos right now at the stage they're in, they're not very useful or helpful. We don't tend to get good performance when we've tested that. I think they'll continue to improve it, so we'll see how that changes over time. The best way to create a video ad that converts is by showing action right away within the first like 1 second, and especially within the first 3 seconds. You want to show all the action. We have an ad right now that's the whole ad is 7 seconds long. It's 7 seconds beginning to end, and all it does is show the product being used. It's more like a moving image even than an ad, really. It's like it's short enough to be a GIF. and that
Mm,
ad performs great. It's like an 18% ACOS, really high volume sales, as high volume as a high volume keyword top of search sponsored product ad. And this is actually a headline video ad that we're running. So yeah, I mean, the video, in terms of the video, as long as you're showing the action right away, you're good. If you don't have any video footage, you can still experiment with creating an ad using the product and text on screen for features and benefits, even a narration with music. But and sometimes that does work. But the best is if you can get shots of the product actually being used in action.
mm,
And you'd be surprised. It doesn't have to be so cinematic. You don't have to spend 20 grand on like, a fancy videographer. We have some ads that are like grainy shot on iPhone, like POV, like product being
mm,
used with some guy's hand, and it produces like 13% ACOS sales every week. So
mm.
all it has to do is show the product in action. It's funny how behind the market is and how like low effort it really is right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
Yeah.
effort you put in is a super high produced video that doesn't show the product in the first second is going to perform worse than a grainy free video that you shot on your iPhone, but does show the action in the first second.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So give them the action first 1 to 3 seconds, and it can be grainy. I mean, it has to be real, right? And then
Yep.
test it, right? Because it looks like right now this is a low hanging fruit. It's a lever not many people are pulling, and it is something that can really help turn around your unprofitable PPC campaigns. All right, Chris, thank you for this training today. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you are interested, make sure to check out the Profitable PPC Challenge, September 23rd to 27th. And we will see you guys at the next session. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Gary.